Well, we can talk now to Masih Alinejad, who's a journalist and activist originally from Iran, joining us from New York. Welcome to BBC News. Tell us more about the campaign to boycott this election.
First of all, I have to say that many Iranians do not call this an election. They call it a selection, because the main architect of the election is the supreme leader of Iran, and all those candidates are handpicked by the Guardian Council. But I have to say, in the history, that was the first time that all the oppositions group, from royalists to those who want to have a Republican government, to left, to the right, they all got united and launched a campaign called No to Voting, and beyond that, No to Islamic Republic. I have to say that many mothers and fathers of those who got killed and executed in 4 decades in Iran, they called for the massive boycott campaign. And that is why the government announced that like more than 40% participated. The participation of the election is very, very below than the number that they claimed. And I think this is a small victory for those who want to get rid of the religious dictatorship right now.
What about the role played by female activists? It's been very hard, increasingly hard, for anyone to come out on the streets. But what would you say women have been doing even behind closed doors?
I have to say that women this time were in the front line of boycotting the election. Look, women are not allowed to choose what they want to wear. They are not allowed to ride a bicycle. Women are not allowed to have the custody of our child. As a woman, I'm not allowed to be a president. I'm not allowed to be a judge. I'm not even allowed to get a passport and travel abroad without getting permission from my husband. So women this time decided to stand up for their dignity and not vote for their own oppressors. And they have a huge demand. They call on international community to bar Ebrahim Raisi as one of the most oppressive hanging judge.
If, however, he is president, and he will be president, and he has the confidence of the supreme leader, Washington, Joe Biden's administration, is going to have to deal with him, especially when it comes to keeping Iran's nuclear weapons program in check.
That's a good point. And that is why we, the human rights activists and the people who were part of the massive boycott campaign, calling on Biden's administration to bar Ebrahim Raisi from entering the United States of America. And that happened in the history. In 1987, the United States of America barred Kurt Wildheim, former Austrian president, entering to the U.S., being involved in the Second World War. So you see, and actually the Justice Department at the same time announced that he was in charge, or he had assisted the prosecution of, those people from their race, religion, and political opinion. Let me make it clear that Ebrahim Raisi had done much more than this, and he has a terrible human rights record. That is why we want Biden's administration to bar him too. Because we keep hearing that the Biden's administration care about human rights and democracy more than Trump's administration. But so far, we haven't seen any sign. If they want to have a deal with him, they have to recognize that he is the hanging judge, and he was involved on massive executions. He actually arrested 7,000 people during last November protests. He killed more than 1,500 protesters, and he is in charge of this massacre. And that is why we want Biden's administration to bar him.
And yet this is a man who might not just be president, but possibly even the country's next supreme leader.
That's true. And that is why a lot of people believe that the election was pre-planned, was engineered to set him as a president for, the future supreme leader of Iran. Believe me, people are desperately calling the international community to understand that that was not a real election, when even the former president of Iran was disqualified. The former speaker of the parliament was disqualified. Women, half of the population, they are not even allowed to have a candidates in this election. And right now, this is the responsibility of the Western country to enforce sanctions on him and prevent him from entering the United Nations as well.
Masih Alinejad in New York, thanks so much for speaking with us.
Thank you for having me.